The Senate will come to order. I ask everyone to please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In the absence of clergy, let us bow our heads in a moment of silent reflection or prayer. Reading of the Journal.
In Senate, Monday, March 4, 2024, the Senate met pursuant to adjournment. The Journal of Sunday, March 3, 2024 was read and approved. On motion, the Senate adjourned.
Without objection, the Journal stands approved as read. Presentations of petitions. Messages from the Assembly. Secretary will read.
Senator Comrie moves to discharge from the Committee on Housing, Construction, and Community Development Assembly Bill number 1080B, substituted for the identical Senate Bill 1218B, third reading count of 491.
So ordered. Messages from the Governor. Reports of standing committees. Reports of select committees. Communications and reports from state officers. Motions and resolutions. Senator Gineris.
Good afternoon, Madam President. We're going to today dispatch with the calendar first as quickly as we can and then return for the introductions and resolutions. So please take up the reading of the calendar at this time.
Secretary will read.
Calendar number 149, Senate Print 1999 by Senator May, an act to amend the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law.
Laid aside.
Calendar number 229, Senate Print 1365 by Senator Kennedy, an act to amend the Agriculture and Markets Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 56.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 41, Senate Print 3069A by Senator Prasad, an act to amend the Social Services Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 56.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 491, Assembly number 1080B by Assembly Member Werner, an act to amend the Executive Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 56.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 501, Senate Print 3125A by Senator Hinchey, an act to amend the State Finance Law.
Read the last section.
Section 3, this act shall take effect 1 year, it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 57.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 510, Senate Print 1056A by Senator Hinchey, an act to amend the Agriculture and Markets Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect 1 year after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 56.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 511, Senate Print 2236 by Senator Hinchey, an act to amend the Agriculture and Markets Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 57.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 512, Senate Print 2407 by Senator Bailey, an act to amend the Agriculture and Markets Law.
Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect immediately.
Call the roll.
Addabbo, Gianaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart-Cousins, White.
Senator May to explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to thank Senator Bailey and my colleagues for putting this bill on the active list. Urban agriculture is, I think, often overlooked and is incredibly important and increasingly important. The upstate cities that I represent have a lot of vacant land, a lot of areas where fresh fruits and vegetables are not available to the people who live there, and so the opportunity to really develop urban agriculture, or develop the small businesses in those cities, the opportunities for people to have fresh fruits and vegetables, the opportunity for children to be involved in growing food, the opportunity for just in general, building our economy and using our land in this way is really important. I also want to say, when it comes to urban agriculture, it's a very complicated legal task to create urban farms. They're often a lot of discrete pieces of land put together. They have zoning laws that can be very confusing. There are a lot of really difficult aspects to the law when it comes to farming in urban areas. So having an office like this that will help people navigate those issues is really important. So I am very proud to vote aye on this bill. Thank you.
Senator May to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 57.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 513, Senate Print 2415 by Senator Bailey, an act to amend the Agriculture and Markets Law.
Read the last section.
Section 8, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
Ayes 57.
The bill is passed.
Calendar number 514, Senate Print 4270A by Senator Parker, an act to amend the Agriculture and Markets Law.
Read the last section.
Section 9, this act shall take effect on the 90th day after it shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Sewell Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to Calendar 514, voted in the negative, Senator Bridgeport. Ayes 57, nays 1.
The bill is passed. Senator Gianaris. That completes the reading of the
Can we now take up the
calendar.
controversial calendar?
The secretary will ring the bell. Secretary will read.
Calendar number 149, Senate Print 1999 by Senator May, an act to amend the Alcoholic Beverage Control Law.
Senator Lanza, why do you rise?
Madam President, I believe there's an amendment at the desk. I waive the reading of that amendment and ask that you recognize Senator Oberacker.
Thank you, Senator Lanza. Upon review of the amendment in accordance with Rule 6, Section 4B, I rule it non-germane and out of order at this time.
Accordingly, Madam President, I appeal the ruling of the chair and ask that Senator Oberacker be heard on the appeal.
The appeal has been made and recognized, and Senator Oberacker may be heard. Senator Oberacker?
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I rise to appeal the ruling of the chair. The proposed amendment is germane to the bill at hand because both deal with the transportation of agricultural products. The bill at hand deals with the transportation of cider, while the amendment provides farmers with an exemption from tolls when transporting products to New York City. Madam President, New York farmers already struggle through the most stringent regulations and erroneous taxes in the country, yet we produce the highest quality products. Just yesterday, a hearing in New York City on congestion pricing, we heard from many angry New Yorkers who oppose the plan to toll those entering New York City. In addition to this, farmers are already subject to additional tolls, bridge tolls, tunnel tolls, and possible additional charges for delivery in certain areas of Manhattan. Since the implementation of lowering of the overtime threshold by the Farm Laborers Wage Board, we have heard from farmers who are concerned about the demise of their livelihood. Madam President, farmers should not be penalized for trying to deliver food and food products throughout our state. We should be helping to offset the rising expenses and facilitate the shipment and transport of these products. When transportation costs increase, some farmers are not able to pass these costs on to the consumers, and they must absorb them, while others are forced to increase costs for the consumers as well. The pandemic has shown us the importance of New York farms in combating food insecurity, especially in urban areas and New York City. It's crucial that farmers can continue to provide communities with access to New York-grown food products. Increasing the transportation costs for farmers will only create more barriers for agricultural vehicles transporting farm products that will support our farmers as they continue to provide essential food to New York communities. Tolls have a negative impact on our New York farmers and their ability to provide farm-fresh products for food insecure residents of New York City. Madam President, in New York, there was a loss of 2,788 farms, including 1,865 dairy farms and over 363,885 acres of farmland from 2017 to 2022. We need to help our farmers in any opportunity we have. I want you all to just think and let that ferment for a little bit. Think about that. Madam President, I can't imagine a greater day than for me to partake in a glass of cold, fermented cider with one of my colleagues from across the aisle. Senator Lieu, for example. I can't think of a better candidate to celebrate a toll-free glass of cider in his district office. And for those reasons, Madam President, I have articulated and strongly urge you to reconsider your ruling. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I want to remind the House that the rulings on the procedures of the House and the ruling of the chair, those in favor of overruling the chair signify by saying aye.
Aye. Show of hands.
Show of hands. Show of hands has been requested, so ordered. Announce the results.
Ayes 20.
The ruling of the chair stands and the bill in chief is before the House. Read the last section.
Section 2, this act shall take effect on the 30th day and shall become a law.
Call the roll.
Dabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart Cousins, White.
Senator May to explain her vote.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you, Senator Overocker. I hope that you can come, tolls or not, and join me at the 1911 Orchard and enjoy some wonderful cider. The reality is that New York State cider is second to none, but New York State cider producers are second class in the sense that they are at a disadvantage when it comes to being able to sell their cider direct to consumers. The cider producers in Washington State and Oregon can ship their cider to consumers, but we cannot here in New York State. And it costs our cideries a lot of money and a lot of opportunities to get their wonderful products out there on the market. So I am proud, grateful to my colleagues for supporting this bill year after year after year. This is the 6th time we passed it. I hope that 6th time is the charm and that our partners in the Assembly and the Executive will support it this time around. Thank you. I vote aye.
Senator May to be recorded in the affirmative. Senator Skoufis to explain his vote.
Thanks very much, Madam President. I certainly first want to lead by thanking my colleague for this bill. It's been, as she noted, around for several years now, and we do hope that the other House finally takes it up. I do want to share an anecdote that I think underscores a larger issue here, though, from last night. And as many of us were, I joined a number of my colleagues in taking a trek down to the convention center in the Empire State Plaza, where the Farm Bureau held its annual Taste of New York reception. And at one of the first tables that we stopped at, one of the individuals doubled as both a vintner as well as a distiller. And on one side of his table were his wines, and he was offering tastings of his wines, and on the other half of the table were some of his spirits that he distilled. And he explained to us that this side of the table could be shipped direct to consumer, and he's been able to do that for years and years, and he's been able to incorporate that into his business model. And this side of the table, arbitrarily, he could not ship. And it is high time that, yes, of course, we enact this bill and allow for cideries to be able to direct ship to consumers, but our distilleries around the state are closing. And we have other legislation. I know we're limited to offering remarks on the legislation on the floor here, but there are distilleries closing around the state. We have to take up this issue wholesale and ensure that our small manufacturers in this state are able to survive and thrive and direct to consumer ship their product. Thank you, Madam President. I vote yes.
Senator Skoufis to be recorded in the affirmative. Announce the results.
Ayes 62.
The bill is passed. Senator Gineris, that completes the reading of the calendar.
Thank you, Madam President. Returning to motions and resolutions, amendments are offered to the following third reading calendar bills by Senator Rivera, Calendar 384, also by Senator Rivera, Calendar 385.
The amendments are received and the bill will retain its place on the third reading calendar. Senator Gineris.
Please recognize Senator Gonzalez for an introduction.
Senator Gonzalez.
Here. All right. Thank you, Madam President. I rise today to welcome Dr. David Wu to the State Senate floor. Dr. Wu is the esteemed president of Baruch College, a beacon of higher education within my district, and a proud member of the CUNY system. With nearly 20,000 students, Baruch College stands as a testament to the transformative power of top-quality higher education accessible to all New Yorkers. Baruch's legacy, dating back to the founding of the Free Academy in 1847, continues today as it provides transformative education to New Yorkers. President Wu, taking the helm during the unprecedented challenges of 2020, has led Baruch to significant growth. Amidst a national backdrop of declining enrollments, Baruch stands out with a 26% surge in applications and a 12% increase in student enrollment. The Wall Street Journal's 2023 ranking underscores this achievement, naming Baruch as the best value of all universities in the United States. Dr. Wu's leadership is characterized by a pioneering vision that marries academic rigor with accessibility, and Baruch students are the embodiment of determination and success, and its alumni continue to make significant contributions to New York's economy and beyond, including numerous members in the Assembly and the Senate. Colleagues, please join me in extending a warm welcome to President Wu, a true champion of opportunity, excellence, and transformative outcomes. Thank you.
To our guest, President Liu, I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. You're already stood. Please rise and be recognized. Senator Gineris.
Move to adopt the resolution calendar with the exception of resolutions 1896, 1902, and 1903.
All those in favor of adopting the resolution calendar with the exception of resolutions 1896, 1902, and 1903, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution calendar is adopted. Senator Gineris.
And now let's begin with resolution 1896 by Senator Hinchey. Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Hinchey.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 1896 by Senator Hinchey, memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim March 17th through 23rd, 2024 as Agricultural Week in the state of New York.
Senator Hinchey on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. New York agriculture is a foundational aspect of our everyday lives and our statewide economy. It's also an industry that requires our continuous support and protection. Agriculture is an industry with the highest potential to do the most good, to fight hunger, affect regional resilience in the face of the climate crisis, expand diversity and equity across an entire workforce sector, and galvanize a new generation of farmers to take the helm. Here in New York, we are an ag state. We have nearly 32,000 family farms. The agriculture sector is a $7.5 billion industry. We have over hundreds and hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland, and we produce some of the best products around, from dairy to craft beverages like wine and cider and spirits and beer, to the best vegetables you could find, maple products, you name it, we've got it. Shout out to our friends on Long Island, our oyster farmers who were here yesterday at Taste New York. We have an incredible array of agricultural goods, and it is incumbent upon us to do everything we can to support this sector to make sure that they grow and that they thrive. Agriculture is really a beautiful thing. It's a bipartisan issue, as we've heard here today, and it's one that unites upstate and downstate together. At the height of the pandemic, it was our upstate farmers who were providing food to people who needed it the most. And with the legislative package that we've passed here today, with strong bipartisan support, we're not only trying to expand markets for our farmers, should the Assembly pick up all of these bills, but to expand markets for our farmers, to make it easier for them to be able to access the services that are available across our multitude of agencies, and to be able to actually bring farmers in to help solve the climate crisis more than they already are today. It is my pleasure to sponsor the resolution that proclaims March 17th through 23rd as Agriculture Week in the state of New York in conjunction with National Agriculture Week. And it's wonderful that today we have members of the Farm Bureau who are here with us, including 3 multi-generation dairy farmers. It's wonderful that we get to celebrate agriculture in this chamber, and I'm really happy to vote aye on this resolution. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Borrello on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank Senator Hinchey, our Chair of Agriculture, for introducing this resolution and to celebrate agriculture. We all, I think, enjoyed going to the showcase last night and seeing the amazing diversity of products across New York State. This is an agriculture state, as has been mentioned. But most importantly, agriculture is the backbone of our economy. You know, I'm proud to represent more than 4,000 farms in the 57th Senate District and thousands upon thousands of farmers. New York State produces everything from dairy products to apples, and as the Senator mentioned, so many other diverse products. But we are in a challenging time right now for agriculture. In a recent census from 2017 to 2022, we lost 9% of our farms here in New York State, most of them family-run farms. And while there are a number of factors involved in that, we cannot overlook the activities in this chamber that have a negative impact on agriculture. So we're here to celebrate and support agriculture. I ask my colleagues to ensure that when we are voting, to be sensitive to the fact that so many people in New York State rely on agriculture. Those who require, obviously, the jobs that it creates, but also the food that is created by our farmers. It's a very difficult job. Both of my grandfathers were farmers. It's a tough job every single day. And every single day, those folks get up to do nothing more than to put food on our tables. It's that simple, folks. No farms, no food. Thank you to our farmers, and God bless you all.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Bailey on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank Senator Hinchey and Senator Borrello for all the work they do. Walking with Senator Hinchey yesterday at the Farm Bureau is like walking around with Jay-Z at a rap concert. She is an agricultural superstar, and it is really impressive and important that we've been able to cultivate this link between upstate and downstate. In the worst of the pandemic, people put their partisanship aside to make sure that bellies were full. And if there's anything that we can see based upon the wide margins of support for these bipartisan bills that were on today's agenda, it's that everybody needs to eat. And I think that if there's a unifying force in this state, it can be agriculture. Many folks from the downstate region go to upstate regions for berry picking or apple picking or wineries or things of that nature. And I think that the more that we engage with each other, the better we'll understand each other. But we do understand that locally grown products are the lifeblood of our community. And the more we can do as a state to continue supporting our farms in many different ways and expanding what we think of as farms with urban ag and things of that nature, will be a much better state. So again, Senator Hinchey, thank you for your incredible leadership. We truly appreciate it, and I proudly vote on the resolution, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Palumbo on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. And from the southern, easternmost portion of the state, I wanted to also rise in support of this resolution and thank the sponsor. And I think that many people in the state of New York don't realize the diverse aspect of Senate District 1, the #1 district for aquaculture, #4 in wine. Suffolk County at one point was #1 in production, agriculture production statewide for many, many years. I think now they're around 3rd. So whether it's Western New York, Mid-Hudson Capital Region, or the 5 boroughs, even all the way out in Senate District 1, farming is a way of life. So I just wanted to rise in support of this resolution. I'm so glad that we can all celebrate this together because it really is the fabric of our community. So I proudly vote aye. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. To our guests, I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please rise and be recognized. The question is on the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Senator Gineris.
Now I want to know whether Senator Borrello or Senator Palumbo has the best agriculture. Number one. You guys can figure it out amongst yourselves.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, can we now move on to previously adopted resolution 1849 by Senator Steck? Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Steck.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 1849 by Senator Steck, congratulating the Adirondack United Girls Varsity Ice Hockey Team upon the occasion of capturing the New York State Public High School Athletic Association Girls Ice Hockey Regional Championship on February 17, 2024.
Senator Steck on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. It's always a privilege to have the opportunity to welcome and honor our local students and student athletes to the Senate chamber. On February 17th, the Adirondack United Girls Varsity Hockey Team finished 18-0 and captured the New York State Public High School Athletic Association Girls Ice Hockey State Regional Championship at the Nexus Center in Utica. The team consists of players from 6 local school districts: Queensbury, South Glens Falls, Hudson Falls, Corinth, and Saratoga Springs. With the guidance of head coach Jeff Willis, assistant coach Margaret Lawrence, and athletic director Matt Greet, the team worked hard and came across school district lines to become state regional champions. Here today are Coach Willis, assistant coach Lawrence, Queensbury School Superintendent Kyle Gannon, and they're joined by the entire team: Ava Reynolds, Gianna Marcantonio, Kara Shivitz, Katie Duffy, Telka Fine Lease, Kara Raven, Bailey Duffy, Alyssa Temple, Madison McCauley, Rowan Lochner-Fell, Jessica Freeburn, Lucy Pilkowski, Allie Webb, Emily Mulcahy, Amelia Lazuski, Lillian Willis, Haley Flewelling, Mae McCarthy, Paige Nelson, Emerson Lochner-Fell, Ella Bray, Aubrey Lazier, Chera Tuthill, Emma Lemry, Caroline Lieberth, Emily Underwood, and Aurora Graham Hayes. I'd like to congratulate and recognize these fine student athletes in the Adirondack Girls Varsity Ice Hockey Team for winning the Girls Ice Hockey Regional State Championship. And Madam President, I request that you please extend the full cordialities of the Senate floor to them.
Thank you, Senator. To our guests, I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please stand and be recognized. The resolution was previously adopted on February 27. Senator Gineris.
Let's stick with Steck. We'll do previously adopted resolution 1514 by Senator Steck. Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Steck.
The Secretary will read.
Resolution 1514 by Senator Steck, congratulating Gretchen Braun upon the occasion of capturing the girls' 100-yard backstroke title at the New York State Public High School Athletic Association Girls Swimming and Diving Championship on November 18, 2023.
Senator Steck on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to thank Senator Gineris for suggesting a nice campaign slogan. Appreciate that effort from Senator Gineris. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize and welcome, instead of a group of athletes, a single athlete who recently made history. Gretchen Braun won the girls' 100-yard backstroke at the New York State Public High School Athletic Association Girls Swimming and Diving Championship on November 18, 2023 at the Webster Aquatic Center in Webster. Gretchen is a student at Lisbon Central, but competes for the Canton Central School through a merger agreement. This past season was a historic one for her as she set numerous Section 10 records, most notably with her winning time of 55.46 seconds in the 100-yard backstroke at the state championship meet. Gretchen is joined here in Albany today by her father, Peter Braun, who along with his wife, Michelle, and her mother, operate the Woodcrest Dairy Farm in Lisbon. Also here is Lisbon Central School Athletic Director Erica Backus and Lisbon Central School Superintendent Patrick Fernand. I'd like to congratulate and recognize Gretchen Braun for winning the girls' 100-yard backstroke at the Girls Swimming and Diving Championship. And Madam President, I request that she, along with her family and coaches, also receive the cordialities of the Senate floor. Thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you, Senator. To our guest, Gretchen Braun and your family, I welcome you on behalf of the Senate. We extend to you the privileges and courtesies of this House. Please be recognized. The resolution was previously adopted on January 9th. Senator Gineris.
Let's move on to Resolution 1902 by Leader Stuart Cousins. Read that resolution's title and recognize Senator Myrie on the resolution.
The Secretary will read.
Resolution 1902 by Senator Stuart Cousins, commemorating the 59th anniversary of Bloody Sunday and the Selma to Montgomery March across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, which serves as a catalyst for passage of the 1965 Voting Rights Act.
Senator Myrie on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. What an honor it is for us to have seats in this chamber, to be able to have exchanges about policy that affect millions and millions of New Yorkers every single day. An honor and a privilege to be sent here by our constituents who go with quiet dignity into the voting booth and send us here to fight for their communities. But it is an honor and a privilege that was paid for with blood. Paid for on the skull of John R. Lewis on March 7th, 1965. Paid for by Amelia Boynton Robinson, beaten unconscious for the world to see on March 7th, 1965. Paid for by the life of a young white preacher, James Reeb, killed because he marched from Selma to Montgomery. And what is remarkable about this story and these events, it's not just that a few months after the marches, we passed the National Voting Rights Act, which, by the way, increased voter registration in Selma from 500 registered black voters in 1965 to 11,000 in 1966 after the law's passage. But that's not the only remarkable thing about what happened that day. We should also note, as we stand in this state's capital, that they weren't marching to the nation's capital, they were marching to a state capital. Because it is here, in this chamber, where we are charged with protecting our right to vote. What's really remarkable about this story is that they went back after being beat. I've been assaulted by law enforcement before. It is difficult to this day for me to be in settings where that is a possibility. They did it in a matter of weeks, and they didn't just go back once, they went back 3 times. It was the 3rd time that they made it all the way up to Montgomery. So it is that undeterred passion, that undeterred mission to call this country to her ideals, to say, we challenge you because we love you. We want you to be the best that you can be, to uphold the creed that men and women are created equal. That's what happened on March 7th, and that is what our responsibility today remains. We must pick up that mantle of undeterred passion, protection for our democracy, calling this country to its true ideals. People died for it. They bled for it. They were knocked unconscious for it. So we have a duty, and I thank the leader for bringing this resolution every single year so we are reminded of it. But I don't have to tell any of you that it is more important now than ever that we be dedicated to those ideals of our democracy. So I look forward not only to voting in the affirmative for this resolution, but for us to keep this spirit, for us to keep this focus. We have a job to do in this chamber. We must protect our republic, and it requires every single one of us to channel that same spirit. So I proudly vote in the affirmative and urge all my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The question is on the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Senator Gineris.
And now, Madam President, Resolution 1903, also by Leader Stewart Cousins. Please read that resolution in its entirety and recognize Senator Webb.
Secretary will read.
Resolution 1903 by Senator Stewart Cousins, memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim March 2024 as Women's History Month in the state of New York. Whereas March is Women's History Month, and whereas March 8th is International Women's Day, and whereas each year New York State officially sets aside time to recognize the unique contributions that New York women have made to New York State and beyond, and whereas New York State has a distinguished history of monumental achievements in the area of women's rights, and whereas in 1826, New York State opened one of the first public high schools for girls, resulting in a future for women in which they were no longer confined to the home, a future in which they were educated and able to use this education to better their social and economic status. And whereas in 1848, in New York, the first Women's Rights Convention was held at Seneca Falls to secure for all women the right to vote. And whereas in 1903, the Women's Trade Union League of New York was formed to represent working women, later becoming the nucleus for the International Ladies Garment Workers Union. And whereas in 1917, New York guaranteed women the right to vote in all elections, and in the following year, the first two women, Ida Samus and Mary Lilly, were elected to the New York State Legislature and became the first women then to serve in 1919. And whereas Rhoda Fox Graves in 1934 became the first woman to be elected to the New York State Senate, she served from 1935 to 1948, sitting in the 158th, 59th, 60th, 61st, 62nd, 63rd, 64th, 65th, and 66th New York State legislatures. And whereas in 1955, Bessie Buchanan was the first African-American woman to serve in the New York State legislature, and whereas in 1967, Muriel Siebert became the first woman to own a seat on the New York Stock Exchange, opening the door for women to gain positions of greater economic power. And whereas in 1968, New York State Assemblywoman Shirley Chisholm became the first black woman elected to Congress. And in 1972, she ran for President of the United States, another first for black women. And whereas in 1970, New York City was the site of the first women's strike for equality, in which 50,000 people marched for equal rights. And whereas in 1978, Olga Mendez became the first Latina woman to serve in the New York State Legislature. And whereas in 1983, New York State women legislators established a Legislative Women's Caucus to improve the participation of women in all areas of government, support issues that benefit women, and provide a network of support for women in state legislature. And whereas in 2007, Ellen Young was the first Asian American woman to serve in the New York State Legislature. And whereas in 2009, New Yorker Sonia Sotomayor became the first Hispanic justice appointed to the United States Supreme Court. And whereas in 2015, New Yorker Loretta Elizabeth Lynn was appointed as Attorney General of the United States, becoming the first African-American woman to serve in this esteemed position. And whereas in 2020, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, became the first woman to lie and repose at the Supreme Court building, as well as the first woman to lay in state at the Capitol. Avril Haines of New York City became the first woman to serve as Director of National Intelligence on January 21st, 2021. And furthermore, on January 26, 2021, Janet Yellen of Bay Ridge, Brooklyn, became the first woman to serve as Secretary of Treasury. And whereas New York has been the home of many extraordinary women who have led society to a better future, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony led the campaign for women's suffrage. Sojourner Truth spoke out for the abolition of slavery and for the suffrage of all women. And whereas Carrie Chapman Catt became the first president of the League of Women Voters, Emma Willard opened the first endowed institution for the education of women, civil surgeon Dr. Mary E. Walker was the only woman ever awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. Harriet Tubman was an abolitionist who led slaves to freedom by way of the Underground Railroad in the 19th century. And whereas Elizabeth Blackwell and Belva Lockwood were the first women in the fields of medicine and law, pioneer birth control educator and advocate Margaret Sanger established a research center in New York City. And whereas Emma Goldman founded the Free Speech League, which led to the American Civil Liberties Union, humanitarian Elizabeth Roosevelt served as United States delegate to the United Nations. And whereas New Yorker Edith Windsor fought to expand marriage equality in the United States prior to the Marriage Equality Act of New York, which became law in 2011. And whereas civil rights lawyer and New York State Senator Constance Baker Motley became the first black woman to sit on the U.S. District Court in New York. And there have been so many more and unknown women who champion rights and opportunity for all. And whereas New York State has hosted many conventions, campaigns, and events of the women's rights movement from the 1848 convention at Seneca Falls to the 1999 Berkshire Conference of Women Historians, which was held to improve the status of women in history and in the historical professions. And whereas currently 50% of statewide officials are women, And whereas 2024 marks the 104th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, which guarantees women the right to vote in the United States. And whereas today, 72 women serve in the New York State Legislature, making up 40% of the seats, holding leadership positions in both houses, and bringing the diverse experiences of women into law and public policy. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this legislative body pauses in its deliberations to memorialize Governor Kathy Hochul to proclaim March 2024 as Women's History Month in the state of New York. And be it further resolved that copies of this resolution, suitably engrossed, be transmitted to the Honorable Kathy Hochul, Governor of the state of New York, and the Legislative Women's Caucus of New York State.
Thank you. Senator Webb on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise to thank my Senate colleagues, our Senate Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, for supporting this resolution memorializing Governor Kathy Hochul's proclamation for the month of March as Women's History Month in the state of New York. March officially became Women's History Month in 1987. I will not tell you how old I was at that time. However, it gives us the opportunity to lift up and celebrate historical and present-day contributions of women in the United States. As we celebrate Women's History Month in this chamber today, we stand on the shoulders of powerful women who came before us, leaders who understood the assignment and fought to ensure equality and justice. Whether it's trailblazers and breakers of glass ceilings and sometimes brick ceilings when it comes to women of color, like our Majority Leader, Andrea Stewart-Cousins, the first Black woman to lead the New York State Senate, or whether you look at leaders such as the Super Six, the first all-women class of freshman senators elected in the history of New York State, whether you look at all of my women colleagues who I'm so proud to serve alongside, courageous women like Shirley Chisholm, one of my sheroes, who boldly brought her own chair to tables that did not have a place for her, other Black women, and other women of color. Generations of women who have fought so hard for gender equity on all issues. Our grandmothers, our mothers, our sisters, our aunties, and friends who have given so much and inspired us along our paths as public servants. We celebrate Women's History Month in honor of all the women who came before us and whose struggles paved our way. And we, in turn, will commit to doing this work so that the path is smoother for our sisters, daughters, nieces, all of the young women and girls who represent our future. Madam President, as we celebrate Women's History Month this year, we do so with the knowledge that our fight for equality and justice are not over. We are still paid less for the same type of work here in 2024. We are still grappling with laws that are that have been enacted to remove our bodily autonomy. Our reproductive freedoms are under attack. It has been nearly 2 years since Roe v. Wade was overturned by the Supreme Court, putting a once settled constitutional right under threat for millions of women. Since that harrowing day, there have been continued attempts to chip away at our rights, including attempts to restrict access to abortion medication, a safe medication approved by the FDA over 2 decades ago. And just last week, we saw attacks against IVF, the standard fertility treatment that have helped so many struggling couples to start families. And the list goes on, and quite frankly, enough is enough. In January, we marked the 51st anniversary of Roe v. Wade with the Senate Democratic majority advancing landmark legislation to strengthen New Yorkers' reproductive rights and improve maternal health outcomes. Make no mistake, reproductive care and maternal care is an essential component of our healthcare system. And at a time when abortion bans are proliferating across the country, and when you look at national maternal mortality rates that are in a crisis, it continues to grow. And this particular issue affects many women and is 3 times higher here in the US than any other high-income nation. The US maternal mortality rate is even higher for Black women, who are nearly 3 times more likely to die from a pregnancy-related cause than white women. And in New York State, we are also seeing this disparity in real time as we too struggle with this public health challenge. It is important to note, however, that these are not solely women's issues, but impact everyone. For when a mother dies in childbirth, that is not just a woman's issue. The pain, the struggles, the losses suffered by women reverberate in our families and throughout our communities. When we empower women and ensure that they have access to the resources they need to fulfill their potential and follow their dreams, not only do we improve the lives of women, but by extension, we are also strengthening families, communities, and our entire state. So as I close, as we continue to commemorate Women's History Month, I hope you all will join me in reaffirming our commitment as a legislative body to pass policies that are committed to equal rights, representation, and justice for all the women and girls of our great state here in New York. I am very proud to vote in favor of this resolution, and I hope my colleagues will join me in celebrating Women's History Month by voting aye. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Senator Canzoneri Fitzpatrick on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. As was just stated, we have to think about the women that came before us that allow us to be present in this chamber. I want to thank the Majority Leader for bringing this resolution to the floor. I did a little research about my district, and I was pleasantly surprised that I'm not the first woman to serve in the 9th Senate District. Karen Bernstein was a senator from 1972 to 1979 and was a graduate from Fordham Law School. Carol Berman was a senator for the 9th Senate District from 1979 to 1984 and just passed away in October, 1 month after her 100th birthday. On a personal note, I have to mention my dear grandmother, Sophie Canzoneri, who immigrated from this country, to this country from Italy in 1931 as a new bride expecting her first child, and had the courage to leave behind Sicily and come to the United States for a better life. And I have to say that my father, at the age of 90, still encourages me and my two sisters that anything we do is possible, and that simply because we are women, there's no difference between the three of us and my three brothers. And it's on his recommendation and following his lead that I became an attorney, and I'm his law partner to this day. And I'm so proud that my father, who would typically be considered an Italian immigrant, would not have supported women, is actually so much a champion for women's rights. My mom is his legal secretary and still works today well into her 80s. And as a grandmother of 13, who I call upon frequently when I'm here in Albany to drive my children somewhere or help out because I'm not there, I am so proud that my parents have continued to encourage me to be in this chamber. I hope every day that I'm an example to my three daughters that anything is possible, regardless of your sex, of where you came from, of your educational background, because that's what this is about, supporting women and understanding that every day we're making history in this chamber. And I too was just elected with the 6 women on the other side of the aisle. And unfortunately, I'm not always mentioned, but there was 7 women that were elected in 2022. So I'm very proud to be part of that class. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Rawlinson on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I rise today to honor the legacy of an outstanding New Yorker during Women's History Month and in support of the resolution before the chamber. This is about a woman from Poughkeepsie who has a name on a building. And until I became mayor and found out who that woman was and what she did, it was just a name on a building. Jane Matilda Boland was born and raised in Poughkeepsie. She was a brilliant student who graduated high school at just 15. She was a pioneer in many fields who would go on to break glass ceilings and overcome bigotry. Today, a mural at the Dutchess County Courthouse prominently features her father, Gaius Bolin Sr., and the Poughkeepsie City School District former headquarters was renamed the Jane Bolin Administration Building to honor her legal and social reforms. And kids, to this day, the building is still there, walk by that every day, and I dare say the majority of them don't know who Jane Bolin is, just like I didn't until I looked into it. Jane Bolin was a woman of first. She was the first black woman to graduate from Yale Law School, first to join the New York City Bar, and in 1939, at the age of 31, she was the first black female judge in the history of the United States. And she would remain on the family court bench for over 40 years. And it wasn't easy. So she was born in 1938, where her father practiced law, and he was the first black president of the Dutchess County Bar Association. And while she was a college undergraduate, she described many of the things that were going on in the attitudes of her fellow students, excluding her from social functions and requiring Jane to live off campus. Well, it didn't stop her. It didn't stop her at all. She followed in her dreams, and she entered Yale Law School, and she was the only black student in her graduating class. Now, during her long and prestigious legal career, Jane Bolin was a fierce advocate for civil rights and the rights of children, especially, as related to education and health. Jane served with distinction on the boards of the NAACP, the Child Welfare League, and the National Urban League. Her passion for children and educational rights went on long after her retirement, where she volunteered as a reading instructor in New York City public schools, passing on her love to the students of learning that she had known as a young woman in Poughkeepsie many years before. So, Madam President, Jane Bolin was a trailblazer, a first-rate legal mind. She continues to this day to inspire in the Hudson Valley and across our great state, and I am honored to support the Majority Leader's resolution before us today. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Helming on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm honored to speak before this body to commemorate Women's History Month. Women in New York State have played an integral role in shaping our nation. They fought for suffrage, secured dignity for those who have faced inequality, and been leaders in every imaginable field. The 54th District that I represent is home of the Ontario County Courthouse, where in 1873, Susan B. Anthony was tried and convicted of voting illegally simply because she was a woman. 144 years later, in that very same courthouse, I was sworn in as the first female senator to represent the 54th District. Now, I know I'm not the only woman in this chamber breaking down barriers. Senator Stavitsky and I had had conversations. I know she is the first woman to represent her district as well. It's a reminder of the path that women throughout history have paved for all of us, and the responsibility that we have today to keep building that road. Across every single district of this great empire state, women continue to do extraordinary, unimaginable things that make a mark in their communities. As leaders in business, teachers in the classroom, caretakers in healthcare, public servants in law enforcement, and of course, change makers in government. All of these women are shaping the future and inspiring the next generation of female leaders. Recognizing their accomplishments, including women in our own families and communities, inspires young girls to lead with confidence and know that they can achieve any dream they set their heart and mind to. Strong leaders are fearless, like Susan B. Anthony was. As a state senator and also as a mother and a grandmother, I share the stories of strong women so my granddaughter Bristol knows that anything is possible if she's willing to work hard and fight for it. As a legislative body, it's my hope that we will always acknowledge, celebrate, and value women for all they have done and continue to do. I vote aye, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Chu on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President, for allowing me to speak on this important resolution today. First, I would like to thank Majority Leader Stewart Cousin to bring this to the floor, and to all my women colleagues in this chamber, happy Women's History Month. Thank you all for being such a great role model for our young girls in the future, inspiring them to be whoever they want to be. And thank you for making history every day. This year, the theme of Women's History Month is Women Who Advocate for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. New York State is one of the most diverse states in the country, and the women of our state continue to make positive impacts in promoting equity and inclusivity. We can all think of women in our lives. They are an example of this: our mothers, our daughters, friends, loved ones. However, the work that is done by women to advocate for this equity and inclusion is often overlooked. But you can see the evidence of the effort in our lives and the lives of our children. Our future generation of women have more freedoms, opportunities, because the work that have been done by fearless women before me. Me, as the first Asian woman to serve in this chamber, I am here because of them. The women in my life have made a profound impact. However, we also know women have often had to fight harder for their efforts to be recognized. During 2024, we recognize the example of women who are committed to embracing everyone and excluding no one in our common quest for freedom and opportunity. Celebrating Women's History Month cannot and should not be confined to 1 month of the year. Recognizing the contribution and achievement of women in our history helps forge the path of future leaders. I hope young women and girls in my district and all over New York State know that they can work hard, dream big, and achieve anything they set their minds to. I will continue to uplift and highlight the extraordinary work of the women in New York and fight against the barriers us women have had to face for decades. For all this reason, I proudly vote aye, and thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator May on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. And I want to thank the majority leader and thank Senator Webb for her powerful comments. I am rising partly because there were several names mentioned in the resolution of people from my district, including, of course, Harriet Tubman, who chose Auburn as her home for the last 4 decades of her life, and Elizabeth Blackwell, who was the first woman to receive a medical doctor degree in the United States from what is now known as SUNY Upstate Medical University. But I really wanted to stand up and talk about someone who's making history right now. A couple weeks ago, I was able to offer a resolution in honor of Dr. Jeanette Epps, who had been chosen by NASA to go to the International Space Station. I'm happy to report that she launched on Sunday night and arrived this morning at the space station. And she made a statement where she said she was in a New York state of mind up there on the space station, really grateful to Syracuse and New York State for the support that she's received. So I just wanted to give people that update, and I vote aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Bailey on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. It's really important that every year I give gratitude to the leader for this resolution and to all of my incredible women colleagues on both sides of the aisle. And it's important that I continue to etch my daughter's names in the annals of the State Senate. It is something that I will continue to do and say their names as a part of the official record. Because literally, figuratively, metaphorically, in any other sense of the word, women are often left out of the official record. So Giada Bailey and Karina Bailey, my daughters, will forever be enshrined in the record of the state legislature. Now, whether they choose a career in public service is completely up to them. They have that ability to do so. But it's important that, as a man, that I do what I can to make sure that my daughters' names are uplifted. Now, it is that wheel of allyship that we must make sure we do to uplift all of the women in our lives. And as Senator Chu aptly put, it's not just this month. It's ongoing, consistent. And you know, we get to serve with some really dynamic women, Madam President, you being one of them. I get to sit next to the funniest member in the history of the State Senate, in Toby Stavisky, but excluding no one. She's the funniest person in this chamber. And I get to really learn from incredible women day after day in this chamber. But as you all know, I'm an incredible sports fan. I just want to point out a few things. I want to point out that if Brittany Griner was paid what she was worth, she would have never had to go into Russia in the first place. I want to point out that the U.S. soccer team, the consistent championship gold medal winning, U.S. World Cup winning soccer team we shouldn't have had to go to litigation for that. I want to point out that Caitlin Clark is not just the all-time record holder in women's collegiate basketball, but in college basketball in general. And it didn't take 4 years, it took 3. And she's going to continue to compile and add on to that record. I want to talk about Angel Reese also in LSU, and more people watching the women's college basketball finals, as far as I knew, than the men's college basketball championship last year. I want to talk about Steph Curry and Sabrina Ionescu, and Steph only beat her by 3 shots this year. And this is women in sports, and Title IX was 1972, but we're finally realizing the fruits of that labor. And women in sports, you know, Shamika Holtzclaw from New York City, Nisha Butler, so many different female hoop legends, point goddesses that we've been able to witness throughout the years. And I just want to always make sure I uplift women in sports, because sometimes, fellas, we get on the court and we underestimate. We get crossed off the court. And you're going to learn today. But I hope that we've all learned the wise lesson that women are not just our equal. They are not just on par with us. They are equal in every other way, and we should act accordingly. Happy Women's History Month from a proud father and proud husband to my wife, Giamara Rosado. Love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Claire on the resolution.
First, I'd like to join in thanking our Majority Leader for bringing this very important resolution today. And I too rise because some of the women mentioned in the resolution represented my district, and because of them, I am. Bessie Buchanan, Olga Mendez, Constance Baker Motley. These were leaders, true leaders. I even had the fortunate opportunity to meet 2 of them in my lifetime. But people who directly impacted my life, when I think about what even brought me here, all the block association leaders, the tenant leaders, the parent association leaders, so many of whom are women, are the role models that I had to follow. And I have really enjoyed the mentorship of great, great women in my community. And most of all, I have to mention one woman in particular. She's not here with me. She didn't get to see me become a New York State Senator, but she taught me that I belonged in every room, that I could do anything that I wanted to do, and that it was possible. And that is Ethylee Clear, my mother, who was my first mentor, and one of the greatest, most strongest women that I ever knew. So I happily vote aye today in celebration of Women's History Month and in appreciation of all the women who have touched my life, including the fierce women here in the New York State Senate on both sides of the aisle. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. The question is on the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution is adopted. Senator Gianaris.
Madam President, at the request of all the various sponsors today, the resolutions we took up are open for co-sponsorship.
The resolutions are open for co-sponsorship. Should you choose not to be a co-sponsor, please notify the desk. Senator Gianaris.
There is a privilege resolution at the desk. Please take that up at this time, read its title, and recognize Senator Mayer on the resolution.
There's a substitution at the desk. Secretary will read.
Senator Mayer moves to substitute concurrent resolution number 1904 for the identical Assembly concurrent resolution number 905, excuse me.
So ordered.
Assembly Resolution 905, concurrent resolution of the Senate and Assembly, providing for the election of 6 regents of the University of the State of New York.
Senator Mayer on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam Leader and Speaker, and thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of this concurrent resolution. Under Section 202 of the Education Law, when there are vacancies on the Board of Regents, it is our obligation as legislators to select both new members, and we are reappointing several older members or members who have served previously. I want to stress to this body the importance of the Board of Regents. Under the leadership of Commissioner Dr. Betty Rosa and Chancellor Dr. Lester Young, our legislature works so closely with the Board of Regents in its oversight of not only education policy, but the regulation of the professions and the range of duties which are imposed upon the State Education Department. This is an incredibly significant and august body. These individuals volunteer their time, and they spend an enormous amount of time in the process of coming up with consensus about some of the most challenging issues that we face as a state. I think we all are quite indebted to them for their leadership, and I'm very pleased that after consideration and review of many applicants, by concurrent resolution, we are appointing the following individuals: Hassani Prats of the County of Kings to be Regent for the 2nd Judicial District, Dr. Seema Rivera of the County of Albany to be elected Regent of the 3rd Judicial District, Patrick A. Mannion of the County of Onondaga to be Regent from the 5th Judicial District, Dr. Christine D. Sia of the County of Richmond to be re-elected Regent from the 13th Judicial District, Dr. James E. Cottrell of the County of New York to be re-elected for a term of 5 years as a Regent at Large, and Wade S. Norwood of the County of Monroe to be re-elected as a Regent at Large. These distinguished individuals will serve us well. It is in our interests and, frankly, our responsibility to ensure that they are appointed concurrently with the Assembly. This is a very wonderful group of people who are donating their time, their efforts, and their collective experience to make sure our state is well served by the Board of Regents. I urge a vote of yes, and I'll be voting in the affirmative.
Thank you, Senator.
Can we just stand at ease for one moment? We're just trying to sort out a procedural question here.
The Senate will stand at ease. The Senate will return to order. Senator Gineris.
I think we can pick up where we left off, Madam President, and call the vote on the privilege resolution.
The question is on the resolution. The Secretary will read. Call the roll.
Dabo, Giannaris Kruger, Ort, Stewart, Cousins, White.
Announce the results.
In relation to the resolution, those senators voting in the negative are Senators Ashby, Borrello, Kennedy Fitzpatrick, Gallivan, Griffel, Hellman, Lanza, Martins, Matera, Murray, Oberacker, Ort, Palumbo, Rhodes, Steck, Weber, and White. Ayes 45, nays 17.
The resolution is adopted. Senator Janeris.
Is there any further business at the desk?
There is no further business at the desk.
Move to adjourn until tomorrow, Wednesday, March 6th at 12 p.m.
On motion, the Senate stands adjourned until Wednesday, March 6th at 12 p.m.